Today, our guest, Daniel Cheng, is an award-winning founder, designer, producer who built one of Shanghai's most successful marketing agencies, delivered campaigns for over 200 global brands, and is now pushing Asian stories onto the world stage through film. To lay out the agenda for today, we will hear about his entrepreneurship journey in China while learning about the business side of creative industries like marketing and film. Before we dive in, Daniel, can you briefly introduce yourself to us and tell us maybe some fun facts about yourself?
Thank you, Mick, for having me on this podcast. So my name is Daniel Cheng. I was born and raised in Boston, and at the ripe age of 20, I moved to Shanghai, China. I got this opportunity through a Fulbright Scholarship by the U.S. Department of Education. I was only supposed to be there for about 6 months, and I ended up staying for 16 years. So it's been quite a journey. I only recently moved to Singapore just 2 years ago. And I have a lot to share.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many viewers are in the marketing creative industries, but you're kind of a public figure now with IMDb profile and all the panel speeches at various events. So, I mean, let's probably roll back the tape a bit further than coming to Singapore. And before that, you spent a long time in China. I guess you said what brought you there initially, but what made you to stay and how did you start your business? Can you give us more stories?
Yeah, so after graduating, I worked in various marketing and design roles around the city, mostly for smaller companies. Super interesting stuff, everything from a retail company focused on felt products to bringing over, at the time, the top hard apple cider company in the world to basically spread that product across China. I think we were a little bit ahead of the curve back then. And then ultimately landed a brand management role for LVMH. And so I did that for a little bit and realized I very much disliked both French luxury and Chinese corporate culture combined. I think it was a very challenging environment to thrive in. And so that kind of gave me the motivation I needed to pursue an entrepreneurial journey at the age of 26.
Was this what you always wanted to do as a kid? Did you come from a marketing family? I don't know. Did your parents have a big influence on you?
Honestly, no. I never really had a lot of dreams to be anything worthwhile as a kid. And I think that was part of the issue was that, I worked hard. I got good grades in school, but I think it's really hard to pinpoint exactly what you want to do, especially at the age of 18 when you're supposed to declare a major and everything. So I actually ended up declaring a very flexible major, which, as an entrepreneur is actually not a bad thing, right? I ended up majoring in environmental design, which, it leads to a number of different career paths, but it's nothing that is that solidifies you into a single box, so to speak.
And after you quit your job in China, did you have something lined up already? Did you have a partner? How did you get started after?
Yeah, so I was actually freelancing on the side, which is very much frowned upon, I think. But I was freelancing off hours, not during work hours. And it was, I remember what gave me the motivation to quit was when my freelancing revenue matched my monthly salary at LVMH. And when it hit that number, I was like, okay, I have this cushion now. I can quit and it's totally fine. And then when I managed to double that number, I got my first staff. And I remember this intern kid was working out of my apartment. And then when I tripled that, I got an office and then started hiring. But if I was to do it all over again, absolutely not. This is the incorrect way to run a business. To really build it that organically is very, very slow. If I was to do it over again, I would have brought on a partner right off the bat, a co-founder. I would have raised capital, and I would have grown and scaled this 10 times faster. But at 26, it is really challenging to run a business because there's only so much
Yeah.
right? And we're talking 2013, so no AI resources. Like it was just really difficult.
Yeah. And you didn't grow up in China, so you didn't have the network.
No, I didn't have the network, but I mean, I would say that's probably one of my strong suits is actually building a network, especially in places that are not my comfort zone, so to speak.
Define freelancing. What were you doing exactly at the time? How did you make money, charge clients?
I was doing various graphic design and web development projects. So I remember my first project was with this like Italian trattoria on Jululu in Shanghai, and ended up designing their menu, designing their logo, and really just working with the owner of the cafe. And then I slowly started building more and more clients from there. It was actually a lot of fun, especially because it wasn't like I was depending on this money to survive. And lots of lessons learned during those first few years. But I would take any project that I could get, anything that was marketing, branding, design related. I would more or less take on, which also is not a great way to expand a business. I do believe you need to focus, but when you're young and when you're starting out, one of the greatest assets is time. Like all you have is time, so you can pour your heart into these projects, and it shows. I think like the thing I have the least amount of now is time, and so I would never be able to like personally take on a project like that. Because I wouldn't be able to commit the amount of resources necessary to do a good job. I mean, obviously I have staff now and stuff, but like I still hear about like some founders who take design projects on because they're just always trying to hone their craft. I don't know how they do it.
Where did you pick up those skills? Was it in school as part of your environmental engineering curriculum?
No, I mean, I learned like some basic like Adobe Suite, design suite software skills, but I didn't fully study like design aesthetics or true graphic design. So, or even web development for that matter. So all of that I picked up on the fly. So I was literally coding websites and designing them at the same time, which I thought that was like a superpower. Like I combined both the knowledge of coding plus having strong design skills and then a layer of branding on top, and that's how I was pitching. But in retrospect, it's like that's so silly. Like I could have easily outsourced that work, but
The coding part?
the coding part, I mean, the design part, the marketing part, all of it, right? It is so hard to scale when you're trying to do everything yourself. But I would say that gave me a good foundation as to, it gave me an understanding of exactly what I was trying to build in my company and the type of people I needed to hire, and I understood the work that was being done. It just, looking back, there's so many things I would have done differently.
Were you a unique talent at the time in mainland China as a overseas-born Chinese that have exposure to, I guess, the Western culture, the Western business mindset, but also the internet culture? Did you feel like, was that one of the reasons you were able to succeed?
I think that's actually probably my lamest, but also one of my greatest superpowers is that yes, I was like kind of right place at the right time. I was able to kind of take this Western mindset, but then apply it to Chinese culture or traditions or understanding what the client needed.
So internet was booming, right, at the time, or
Yeah, I mean like Weibo culture,
yeah.
like the Twitter stuff that was hot back then. But really, it was the fact that I was Western educated and trained, but applying these skills in a non-Western market, and I think that's that was at the time what a lot of Chinese companies, brands, small businesses were looking for, was that like elevation from the norm. And yeah, I mean, it was a great source of revenue at the time, but I don't think you could just apply that today. The Chinese design aesthetics is actually getting pretty good, and like the branding and all of that is far better than it was back in the early 2010s.
Yeah, I guess what I had in mind when I asked the question was about the difference in the education system. The talk on the street, everybody knows, is in Asian cultures we don't teach about creativity, whereas in Western cultures it's all about critical thinking, think outside the box, challenge authority. Do you think that the education was what evolved in China over the time? That accelerated this evolution of the creative industries? Or in your mind, why and how did they catch up?
I mean, I totally agree with you. I think fundamentally there's a lot of, especially when it comes to the creative arm of education in China, it's some of the graphic designers that we're hiring these days, like, yeah, they're good at the software, but they don't actually have that taste that can be developed over time. But it's really the exposure to it. I would say to kind of answer that question is it's really about the access nowadays. It's so easy to get inspiration and to find like an artist or a designer that you really love and just like glean their styles. Whereas I think before the access was quite limited. We didn't have a lot of the platforms that we do now for young people to grab that inspiration. But I think nowadays it's the world is more interconnected than ever. There's really no excuse if you're going into the creative field. There's no excuse not to be creative with all the tools that are readily available now. Regardless of whether you were Western educated or educated in China or anywhere else.
Did you find that as a challenge to growing your business initially in terms of recruiting the right talent with the right training and the right taste?
I think so. So the company now is 25 people, and I've been running it for 13 years now. So if you asked me 13 years ago, how big will you guys be in 10 years? I would have been like 100 people. But that's far easier said than done. It's so much more difficult to scale a business, and so we're kind of at this inflection point where yes, one of the greatest challenges is finding strong talent. To be frank, like we're not hiring HBS grads. We're not hiring Stanford Business School grads. Like the reason why we have a production house in China is obviously to take advantage of the wage disparity, especially when we're working with Western clients, right? And so even if I was to hire top tier graduates, I think I've worked with we've hired graduates from like Fudan University, we've hired graduates from Shanghai Jiao Tong University, and the same problem across the board. It's really not about how hard you can study, or how how rigorous your curriculum is. In the creative field, there's like a layer of like passion that is required, and there's this like spark that is needed. And if that's not there, then it does become very challenging. So, yeah, I think every business owner that I interact with, hiring is always the challenge. And I think we're getting better at it. At year 13, we finally found like what I think is the secret recipe that makes us that makes our company kind of very competitive, is that we're able to retain the people that we bring in, because we offer above market rates. We have spent a lot of time investing into building a strong work culture, and I think a lot of Chinese companies can't compete on that because they don't spend that time. They pay market or below market rate. They don't invest in work culture, and then, I mean, it's the opposite, right? It's like 996, like Jojo Liu, and that's a whole other discussion altogether.
What do you mean by investing in the work culture?
I think it's if you were to work for a Chinese company, for instance, a big, maybe a tech company, right? The culture there that they've developed, and I don't think they can get out of it, right? Because part of the reason why Chinese tech is so strong is because of this work culture. So it goes both ways, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that A, it's sustainable, and B, people are happy in that environment. So it's like a sink or swim mentality. But to really push people to work that hard, and the ones that are gonna burn out, we don't want, right? We only want the ones that can survive and that can thrive in this competitive environment. I don't really believe in that. I do believe in a work-life balance. None of our staff really does OT. And when clients hear that, they sometimes get a little bit worried. They're like, wait, you guys don't do OT? What if we need something? I'm like, you're not going to need something, because we're very organized. And we deliver on time. And if you deliver on time, there's really, we get our work done. So everybody at our company enjoys like pretty good hours. I would say the only excuse is, if there is anybody doing OT, it's because they didn't finish their work during the day. But it's very manageable, and we don't encourage that type of behavior. You've heard of like companies where you have like junior staff showing up before their boss, and then staying late until after the boss leaves, right?
Yeah.
But I think like really by 6 p.m. productivity is cut like exponentially from 10 a.m. Anything after 6, like the output is just not worth it for the amount of kind of long-term stress that you're causing the employee, and you never know, they could be like building resentment towards you. So just it's a convoluted way of saying this whole thing about like work culture. When I say we really don't encourage it, that speaks multitudes compared to some Chinese corporates where no, this is the norm. The norm is you put in 12 hours a day, and the norm is you're going to put in half a day on a weekend. Like, why?
Yeah. Just speaking more on the challenge in finding the right talent, what differentiates your hires, recruits, from others who didn't make the cut? You spoke about passion. You spoke about university credentials probably matter less. But what do you see in them that you can have a good sense that they will be successful in the future?
So one of the metrics that we hire for is really loyalty. And I've found that is one of the strongest hiring factors that we look out for, is how long is this person going to be here? Because I can hire a top tier graduate, I have, but they don't stay more than 2 years, right? So yeah, okay, maybe we get some good output from them on a project, but then in 2 years they're going to bounce to a bigger agency, and that's not something we can control. Like we are all things considered, a small to, I don't even know if we're considered mid-size agency, and so there's always more optically prestigious agencies to work for, or you go brand side or whatever. But you're always fighting that challenge where, I've invested a lot of time into some of these people, and then, they go to a different company and they take that skill set with them. And so it's from a kind of like human resources standpoint, it's a bad ROI. So one of the things that we try to hire for is like, okay, well, what is the long-term loyalty? Because, there are opportunities in our company where people grow from account executive to account manager to account director. Like there is a pathway there, and people have grown with us over the years. We have staff that have stayed for 5, 6, 7 years, and beyond that, it's less about like I'm not hiring McKinsey level talent, right? I want to make that very clear. But I think that there's a layer below that where, okay, you're not McKinsey level talent, but what about the people right below that? Like I think that's like a nice sweet spot where they're still ambitious and they're still smart people. And you can get them for at an affordable rate, and I think,
and convince them to stay longer with you,
But if there's only so many spots at McKinsey, right?
Yeah.
And if you didn't make the cut, we are here for you. No, but seriously, there's I think there is this like sweet spot where we are getting some pretty good talent. It's just it's not top tier. But that's great, because in exchange, there's good loyalty there. There's passion, and there's this desire for growth as well.
And how do you assess loyalty from someone who doesn't have a track record, like a fresh university grad?
We try not to hire too fresh. Actually, we oftentimes if we do have interns. Lots of the interns that we've worked with, we hire them full time, and then they've been with us. They've gone through the gauntlet in our company, and they actually thrive. So when we do hire fresh grads, it's almost no different than hiring an intern. Like that one extra year doesn't make a difference. I mean, we would have much rather them have gone through the internship program as opposed to starting a fresh grad. And like a lot of these fresh grads these days are so reliant on AI that it's actually kind of scary. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it is like they need it. They can't write an email without it.
Yeah.
And it's very scary.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke a lot about your learnings, reflections, POV from a entrepreneur CEO standpoint, but I think we need some more background information. So why don't you tell us about what is MDS? How does the industry work? How do you guys make money?
Oh, yeah. I should probably mention that. So my company is called MDS Collective. It formerly was known as Metric Design Studio, but we don't really do too much design anymore. Founded in 2013 in Shanghai, but now we have offices in Singapore and Shanghai, and soon likely Abu Dhabi as well. We have, I think in 2021 we pivoted to solely focusing on hospitality, tourism, and travel. So now we primarily work with hotels and airlines and tourism boards who are looking to target the mainland Chinese market, specifically the outbound tourists. China has the biggest outbound tourism market in the world. It's 155 million trips in 2025 alone. And they have a very high propensity to spend when they're abroad as well. So that is the kind of niche that we focus on. I have over 40, I think 40 or 50 clients in that space. So, and then soon we're going to be doing the same thing, but also for South Korean and Japanese tourists as well, because all three of those markets share the same complexities or challenges, rather. Language is obviously a big challenge for a lot of these tourists. The command of English is not necessarily that great. There's the cultural differences, and then there's also the platform differences, right? The kind of
the apps they use,
and also the behavior of how they make their decisions when it comes to travel or even shopping, for that matter, is very different from how a lot of our clients are used to doing their marketing. So we aim to kind of bridge that gap, and it's been very, very successful. Our company has grown. I think we've tripled in the past 2 years. Just because we've started focusing on that niche. And that's just, one thing that I would actually say to any potential entrepreneurs that are listening, is it's really, really helpful to kind of focus into a niche, because we can now be the best in our industry. Whereas, how do you become the best design agency, on the planet? It's so subjective, and it's so difficult, because you have to cover so many different industries. But now we're so focused on these industries that our team is able to build this expertise and this skill set, and we're able to replicate a lot of this work. So I think ultimately it's about the predictability in terms of the types of challenges that we'll run into. And if you're able to mitigate a lot of that, it's so much easier to scale.
How much overlap was there from being a design agency to kind of a travel tourism focused creative agency? And what did you have to do to pivot the business, the talent, the client, the product, everything?
Yeah, it took a lot of time to refine our product. But I mean, overall, the skill set is the same, right? We've always had marketing people. We've always had designers. We've always had project managers and strategists. It's just everybody had to kind of start to, develop. I would say all of the people that work for us, they all have young people have a passion for travel, right? And it's just, okay, yeah, you have a passion for travel, but now you have to look at it with a commercial lens and understand the trends that are happening to the industry, and understand, what content creators and influencers, what they're gravitating towards. There's consumer habits, and just to pay more attention to that. And that took a few years for us to kind of get our groove. We also started winning awards in the industry as well, specifically for that travel niche. And then I started speaking more and more at different travel conferences, for thought leadership, but also just to expand my network. And as you probably know, I can talk forever. But it definitely was a challenge to pivot. But it was I think it was very welcomed, because now everybody's aligned. Whereas before, we were servicing cosmetics, we were servicing the auto industry, and we had pharma companies. All of those companies, all of those verticals and industries, they all have their own unique set of challenges. It's really, really difficult to be the best if you're spread so thin. And so that was a major learning, and that was also coming out of COVID as well. So I had to figure out a more stable way to generate revenue. Pre-COVID, we were 95% project based. Now we're over 90% retainer based. So even our accountant, all the cash flow is very predictable, and it's far more stable of a business than it was before.
You lose less hair, lose less sleep.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. What did you see in 2021 that made you to pick that niche out of all that you could choose?
Our first major tourism board client was actually an overseas medical tourism board. So they were trying to attract more Chinese medical tourists. And that was a very, very interesting project. And we worked with them for 3 years. And then we started signing some hotel clients, just because it was like social media related, right? And I started seeing like, oh my gosh, this is actually pretty lucrative, in the sense that we have like retainer clients, and if you kind of offer a solid service, they're probably gonna sign again. Like, this is awesome. I never wanted to be known as a social media agency. I was like, the designer in me was always, I was like obsessed with design. But now I'm like, wait a second.
Let's figure out how algorithms work.
Yeah.
How platforms work. How do we game the system?
Exactly. And it's far more exciting, of a specialty to have now than just the broad term of design. I honestly think like to be a pure design consultancy it's really, really hard. With all the tools that are available now, it's so competitive. Like I would never start a design agency again, knowing what I know now.
And when you say retainers or recurring revenue, does it mean they pay you regularly for you to create some product on a frequency, like monthly, bi-weekly, on social media? Or
Yeah, exactly. It's like our projects used to be like 3 or 4 months. There's a clear start, there's a clear finish.
Yeah.
But now these contracts are 12-month contracts, where there's a beginning, and then in the most ideal sense, there is no end. So all of because we're always constantly evolving our product and trying to make it better. My goal is to actually be the number one hospitality marketing company in East Asia. And we're probably on track. I would say the product that we have now is probably the best across mainland China, because I truly believe with every bone in my body that nobody has spent more time thinking about Chinese outbound hospitality than I have. Just like the sheer amount of brain power that I've sunk into it. But it also reflects in the work, and we have like a 65-page SOP in terms of how we view and operate our products. I don't even remember what the original question was. Sorry.
It's okay. I forgot as well.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Sorry. 12-month contracts, and because it's very predictable revenue, and because our product is always getting better, it's almost like a SaaS model where once they're in, you want to reduce the churn as much as possible.
Yeah.
We have, I think right now, like something like an 8% churn, and that's decreasing. I mean, I'm already pretty proud of that, but my goal is to get it down to 2%, because our product is pretty good.
What do you mean by the product?
So the service is, I view it as a product because I view it very similar to how you would view like a SaaS model, because it is kind of a subscription in that it's clients pay on a monthly or quarterly basis, and we're working on it as if we're working on like an app, for instance, and constantly fixing it and improving it and releasing version 1, version 2, so there is that level. I don't really call it a service because I believe it far extends beyond just a service. We do so much for our clients, and there's also just like layers upon layers of just development that goes into it, that it's probably more similar to a product than a service at this point.
So if we drill down to the specifics, do you like run their Xiaohongshu, the Red Note accounts? Do you build their proprietary apps within the WeChat? What are the range of stuff you do?
Yeah,
for them?
so it might sound like we're a social media agency because we operate the Red Note account, and that sure we do, but we also operate their 5-star customer service. We also operate their beyond their social platforms, some of their other digital assets. We run their ad strategy. We protect their brand reputation. We protect their AI geo as well. So like when AI picks up on the reputation of the airline or the country or the property that we're working with, we have ways to refine that and then to help it rank higher and higher, because we severely focus on the top of the funnel stuff. So awareness is really the thing that we're trying to, the attention that we're trying to gather from tourists. And then beyond that, there's like this, like all these like digital assets that we build for them. And then there's a layer of offline work that we do for them as well, so that it's all connected together. And ideally, there's still some work to be done, but the entire pathway from when a guest or potential traveler discovers this country, property or airline, we follow them the whole way, all the way to when they book, and then like there's like an after sales component as well, so that we can really track the success of our work.
So for a single contract for 3 to 4 months, that type of contract, you would have a very clear finished product. You would have clear KPIs. But for a monthly recurring contract, like a retainer fee, is the work kind of also in that sense is recurring, it's kind of repetitive month by month, or?
Yeah, so there's a layer of repetitive work, obviously, but there's also a lot of stuff that we do that is like very unique. For instance, we run basically quarterly campaigns, and then every property or every airline has a different type of campaign that they want to run. So there's like unique challenges in that. And then there's so there are like a lot of predictable things, and a lot of things that we do that is repeatable. So, and that's a good thing, I would say, from a operations standpoint. It's good to have that predictable work, because predictable work leads to predictable problems, or predictable successes. And it's when we pick up clients that are out of this predictable zone, and that's when it requires more time from the staff, and maybe they don't have like the right skill set for it. Then we have to outsource it, and then we're project managing the outsourced vendor, and then we inherit all these risks that is honestly just not worth it. I'm starting to learn this, whereas if you asked me this same question 8 years ago, like I would have literally picked up any project that came our way, if it was marketing, design, or digital related. But now that we've, like I keep coming to this aspect of it being a product, we're really trying to specialize, and that's the beauty of it. Is once you do, everything is like the flow of running a business is so much more simple.
What are some of the most proudest products or achievements, campaigns you've run in the last 2 years?
I would say the proudest achievement for our company was winning the campaign Boutique Agency of the Year award, gold, nonetheless. That we celebrated in the beginning of December, and that was awesome. To not only to win that award, but to win it in gold. It's a kind of a recognition of all the hard work that I've put in.
Is that like the Oscars, the Grammys of
creative
industry?
So in the marketing industry, like Campaign Asia is very well respected. Maybe similar to like a Forbes. In our industry, and then personally, I was on the Campaign Asia 40 under 40 list. So that was a proud achievement.
Were you nominated by some clients, or how did they decide? Was it because of
how was I nominated?
Run the product?
I don't remember how I was nominated, but once I was nominated, there was this like application process that we had to do, and then we went through that entire gauntlet. I think the first year I was nominated by a client. Yeah, the first year we applied was because a client was like, "Hey, you should, I'll nominate you for this." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! Thank you so much." But I wasn't selected that year. And so then it was on my radar, and I was like a little bit upset, and I was like, no, I'm going to win it this year. So we applied again a second year, and got selected for that.
Yeah. Congrats.
Thank you.
And very happy the work you put out throughout so many years got a recognition
Yeah, no,
of that
it's been
weight and
great.
scale.
We've done some campaigns for like the Malaysian government, and filmed some really interesting commercials for them, kind of talking about some really difficult to talk about subjects. That I think that also brought some pretty good recognition. That's also like some of those campaigns have won awards, specifically talking about like fertility and the stigma associated with like IVF and.
So that's separate from the Chinese outbound traveling, or is that for their medical tourism?
It is outbound. Yeah, it's outbound targeted, and the commercials were filmed in China for a Chinese audience, but promoting their overseas services.
Got it. Yeah, that's a huge market, actually.
Massive.
Yeah.
Like, because not only are you competing with South Korea, you're competing with Thailand, and the service level of the technology in South Korea is like unparalleled, when it comes to overseas medical stuff. And then you have Thailand, and the service there is unbelievable. When you are actually a medical tourist and you go through their program, it is really, really competitive. And so Malaysia had to try to find its edge. And I think some of the ways that we were relating to these potential I'm sorry, I keep saying potential, but relating to the audience is one that I think we did far better than what Thailand did that year. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Sounds like, from what I'm hearing, a big part of your job is also to helping your client to craft that identity in front of the audience, present how do they differentiate themselves, what are their special niche, in a sense, to offer.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And that's only one part of the issue, right? Is you could film the most compelling commercial.
Yeah.
And it can really just like make people cry, and it can really like hit some nerves in people. But what if nobody sees it? Right, like the awareness and the overall kind of like ad strategy is also equally as important, right? And I think a lot of marketers kind of overlook that. It's like they focus a little bit too much on the creative, and then what are we gonna do? Oh, we're gonna put it on YouTube and take some ads out on it. Okay, that's not enough in 2026.
It sounds very lazy.
Yeah, it's like we'll put some ad dollars on it on Xiaohongshu. Yeah, that's not enough. That's only going to do so much. Okay. What happens when you run out of money? Then you run out of impressions, and that's not going to make a lasting impact. There's far better ways to do like kind of organic marketing these days. That I think is it's what still like excites me and keeps me passionate for the industry. Is figuring out ways to work around creative ways to work with sometimes very challenging budgets to work with.
So, well, let's delve more deeper into that. What does the MDS grade ad strategy look like? How do you go above and beyond from just spending ad dollars on YouTube, Red Note? What are some questions you have to think about? How do you go to another level?
Yeah, I think it's really truly understanding the audience, right? So if we're just looking at a pure ad strategy, who is our target audience, right? So everyone knows the TA. Okay, so let's we're targeting 27-year-old females in first-tier cities across China. Great. So is everybody else. Everybody wants that same exact demographic. Oh, they like travel. So does everybody else. Like it's okay. Diving 10 layers deeper than that. What are the nuances? What are the communities and tribes that these people are in? and how do we target those instead? Because that's probably going to yield a far better catch than just throwing your net in the ocean and trying to just pick up some fish, right? We publish these trend reports on a quarterly basis because and it's also an exercise for our team is to better understand the exact person that we're trying to target. And this person, XYZ is, makes this much money, typically is interested in this, and here is her behavior, or here is his behavior when they do go travel. And then diving into that market and that niche and that community and then targeting there. So it's like very, very nuanced because it's always evolving, it's always changing. The platform can only do so much, but when you know that, then I think it's actually an advantage. Like, okay, well, I can kind of target certain people, but then how do I go a layer deeper than that? And so that's kind of the secret power that we have is we can get a few more layers deeper. And one of the big, components of the business is working with content creators and influencers. And I truly believe that is the future, and it has been the future on social media platforms. But it's more important than ever, especially in the age of there being so much AI. What do they call it? AI slosh. Just like is this human content or is it just like some AI content that is trying to just get some eyeballs, right? And so the more people that adopt that, there's actually a greater need to just have authentic, experiences being showcased. And part of the other reason why I went into this industry is because I like to say it's AI proof. A hotel will never use an AI generated image to showcase their property because your expectation always needs to meet reality. When the traveler arrives in the lobby, then the lobby needs to look like the lobby that you're showing on your website. It can never, be any more grand than that. And I think it's the same thing for tourism boards. They're always going to shoot, that beautiful mountain that they have in next to their city, or they're going to shoot their nightlife exactly like what it looks like, so that when the traveler does arrive, it is what they're seeing. So yeah, it
sounds like you do spend a lot of time thinking from the TA's standpoint and trying to segment them into different baskets and what could be the best way to persuade them, right? It's a lot of psychology, a lot of sociology related skill sets and knowledge.
Sure. Yeah, there's a big component of social sciences involved in this, and I think that's also very exciting, right? These things are all ever changing.
Yeah.
Like trends, you can boil it down to that as well. But that is a big portion of that.
How does big data play a role in this? Do you have proprietary surveys, data analytics, or do the platforms generate these for you?
I actually, it's funny, right? Because like big data, it's like almost like a double-edged sword because, the platforms do generate some of these reports, but, like everything from like their monthly average, the MAU, monthly average users, you can trust that because they published it, but do you really trust it? Like, are there really that many users still using Weibo? Because when I go on Weibo, it's just bots, right? When we work with like some of these influencers, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I have 8 million followers on Weibo, but I only have 2,500 on RedNote." I'm like, "All right, I can kind of read between the lines." So obviously there's the big data that the platforms publish, which we take with a grain of salt. And then there's actually like, because of like economies of scale and how we manage our business, we actually have like over 10,000 data points that we can reference now, because we've been doing this and specialized in this for so long, and that number's only going to grow. Like, yes, 10,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but like when you run that through AI software or whatever to generate a dashboard and to generate trends from it, like it's really, really interesting. And that's some of the stuff that we are doing is, we have data points, and this wouldn't be possible if we didn't specialize, but now that we do, we can actually draw our own proprietary trends, whereas before we wouldn't be able to.
And what do these data look like? They tell you about, is this like the KPIs? Did the ad generate any traction,
Less
convert, monetize, or is it about the deeper user profile behaviors?
I would say it's probably from a 35,000 feet overall trends and behavior of some of these travelers. But it's interesting. First, okay, so I'll just use the hotel industry as an example. The first insight that we've gathered is more money, more problems. So the higher cost the hotel is, the more issues we deal with. And that's because when we operate these accounts, like to stay 3 nights at the Bulgari hotel, like that is the price of a Bulgari bag, like a handbag. It is not cheap. And so when people do make that investment, this is a small investment really, they're expecting to get not 5-star service, like 7-star service.
Yeah. And
when the hotel is at 95% occupancy, you're not getting 7-star service. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
Okay, if the hotel is a quarter full, yeah, the butler is going to be super nice to you and on top of everything, and the front desk staff is going to anticipate all your needs. Like that's not reality. And the reality is, when you are traveling, it could be during peak seasons, right? Because Chinese New Year, Dragon Boat, national holiday, like your experience is going to be vastly different. And so one thing that we've noticed is Chinese travelers tend to complain on social media apps to us. And that's a good thing. We want them to complain to us, because that means they're not necessarily going and complaining to the public. The moment that they go and complain to the public, then our reputation is damaged. So we don't see that at some of our lower end 5-star hotels. And I say lower end because there's 5-star is a kind of a catch-all term, but there is like a range, and it really is. It comes down to when a consumer is spending more money, the expectation is different. And we can see that in the big data that we have, is they are far more petty and they are far more nuanced than some of our less expensive properties that we work with.
And do you offer a solution to solve that problem?
Well, the first solution is that we basically say to them, hey, we're so sorry you had this issue, right? So they want to be heard. Right. And a lot of times, some of these ultra wealthy travelers, they don't speak English. So they're not going to go to the front desk of the hotel and ask for the general manager to complain. And to a lesser degree, Asian culture, maybe we're not so confrontational. But you give them the power of having a social media platform, right? Everybody's a keyboard warrior. It's easy to start to complain, and the moment that they're just a little bit unhappy, we hear it. So some of the services that we provide is like this crisis management. Is when somebody's about to explode, we want to go in and try to calm them down, especially if they're like an influencer or somebody famous, and we deal with that a lot.
Yeah. What have you learned about Chinese travelers beyond what you shared so far on the 7-star property high expectations? Any interesting facts, finding trends, observations?
Plenty. I mean, overall, the industry is a little bit down from like I would say pre-pandemic, right? A lot of it's tied to the overall health of the economy. So when China's real estate is doing well, when China's stock market is doing well, then they're spending, right? And it's not just, on nice properties, it's also on nice things. They're spending on luxury goods. Like I said, I used to work for LVMH, right? So they're spending on that stuff. That's exactly what they're spending on. They're going out and eating at Michelin star restaurants. They're going and dropping bottles at clubs. But the moment that real estate is hurt and the moment that the stock market is hurt, it reels back. So we're not saying that they're not staying at the Bulgari Hotel. Of course they are. They're just not staying for 3 nights anymore. They're probably just staying for 1 night, going and taking those photos, posting it, and then staying at the Sheraton for the rest of the time, which is, perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with the Sheraton. We work with Sheratons, but maybe they're not posting as much at the Sheraton. But we do see that, right? It's it is spread. Just the average daily nights that they're staying. They, all the hotels have this data, and the market is strong. It's just they're not. It's shorter stays, and that's a big thing. Is it going to rebound? Absolutely. I think once the real estate market stabilizes and the stock market bounces back, people will, the confidence to spend is going to be there again.
What about in terms of destinations? I think you read in the news just by being in Southeast Asia about how many travelers come to Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand each year, and how that changes because it's a big economic factor to every country's GDP every year. So Chinese tourism dollars, do you see any trends, for example, going to the Middle East? Where are they spending? Yeah, and then who goes where also, I guess.
So there's something called MICE, which is basically the business travelers, right? Yeah. The MICE sector is up big for the Middle East, and typically it trickles down where when there's business travel, first there's a layer of business travel that happens, and then tourism follows suit. And if business travel is strong, then tourism will likely follow. And that's what we're seeing in the Middle East. A lot of Chinese businesses are going there. Like all of the EV companies are doing their product launches in Dubai. And every Chinese EV company has a Middle East office now because it's strategically a very important market for them. And following that, there's a lot of Chinese travelers who are discovering the Middle East for the first time. They're going to Abu Dhabi, they're going to Doha, they're going to Oman, and they're realizing oh my gosh, this is a whole new world. It's safe, right? Which, and actually culturally, there's a lot of things that align very nicely with mainland China that the Middle East offers, right? Is obviously safety is a big aspect of it. No recreational drugs. That's another one. No gambling for now. Although Dubai's, UAE is trying to launch a casino at some point. But there's, strategically there's a lot of alignments that work very nicely in their favor. And then on top of that, they're working very closely. The two governments are working very closely together, regardless of which country it is in the Gulf. There's a lot of people going there, and it's also on the social media side. It's great for photos, right? Yeah. To be on a camel in the desert, or to go sandboarding, or
I've seen so many of these photos.
Yeah, it's the great thing is you could it doesn't cost anything to do a buggy ride, right? It's like
the ATVs on the desert with the Ego.
Exactly, with the Falcon.
Falcon,
you can easily get that photo, and it's beautiful. You can't mess up that photo because the landscape is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's just great social media fodder. Whereas I would say certain other countries may struggle with that. And on the flip side of it, right, is for a traveler, they always have the power of choice. When I am spending 4 nights in Penang, that means I'm not spending 4 nights in Jeddah. And that's also something like that our tourism boards often overlook is like they don't need to come to your country. You need to create reasons for them to come to your country. And yeah, so the Middle East, like all the Gulf countries that I work with, they create reasons for Chinese tourists. I'm not even Chinese tourists, all tourists to come and visit. Other countries that we're like doing some strategic consulting with, they don't know how to create those reasons. And they're like, yeah, but we still want them to come. I'm like, what are they coming for? What do you offer that this other country doesn't? I can go to, this other beach destination for a fraction of the price. They speak my language. They have great food. It's safe. What do you offer that they don't? And that's the problem. Like I'm like complaining a little bit about the industry. I don't want to.
But that gives you a opportunity. That's a business opportunity for you to create the niche for them.
That's the idea. Yeah. So there's we're working with some of like these Southeast Asian tourism boards. And honestly, like, they're great people that we work with, and I can see that some of them are just struggling because it's more of an internal procedure thing where it's like a big company and trying to get through all this red tape. Whereas I actually believe like the tourism board should be like governed a little bit differently, where they shouldn't have to go through red tape. They should be able to do interesting things. They should be able to, like draw international names or artists to create reasons for people to come. They shouldn't. It should be the most flexible arm of the government, but oftentimes it's not, and I think that's a problem. Because when you do want to increase the GDP, as you mentioned earlier, like fundamentally things need to change.
Yeah. I mean, I think every year in Thailand, Malaysia, all the countries, a lot of countries, Southeast Asia, it's like a pageant contest. They come up with this campaign trying to draw the Chinese tourists. Every year they come up with something new. And what do you think about that strategy? Because at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. And it could be a different advertisement, but when you actually get there, your experience would be the same as previous year. I mean, what I have in mind is like, for Thailand, a lot of music festivals. What else? A lot of events. Yeah, mostly event driven in this part of the world, like F1. I think Thailand is doing something similar for motorsports. And I think Philippines just lifted the visa requirement for China. So,
like, I mean, I would say anything on that global level, like Thailand's doing. Is it Tomorrowland?
Yeah.
Tomorrowland, Ultra Music Festival. So like Sokran, that's appealing to a specific target niche, and that's great. And they should continue doing that, right? Like I know some people at TAT, the Thailand Tourism Authority, and the challenge that I would say that they have is not putting on these like one-off events. But it's like there's like a lot of like political instability in the Thai government, right? Where oftentimes like people change, and it's hard to kind of build like that lasting impression that you need. Whereas I don't want to like compare, but like you look at like how STB, like Singapore Tourism Board here, manages the country's image in tourism. Like it's aligned. Like there's a level of alignment there, where Thailand, if you constantly just put on EDM festivals, like it is a party place, but a lot of the stuff that Thailand wants to do is actually not necessarily that. Like they want to also be a family-friendly destination. Yeah. So there's a kind of a misalignment internally, and it's Yeah, I mean, you always want to have a more unique experience each
Mm.
time you go, right? But then it kind of comes down to like the whose responsibility is that? Is that on the tourism board, or is that the event organizer who's supposed to create that experience for you? Because if it's the tourism board, then we evaluate everything under the sun, right? It would be the moment that you get off of the airplane, and how was that immigration process? How was it getting to your hotel? All the way to the safety of your trip, and the convenience of everything. Whereas if it's just the event organizer, then that's a different layer of responsibility. But anything is better than nothing. Like the fact that they can get together and be like, okay, we've approved these permits to do this type of event, that's already a victory. There are other countries that can't even get to that level. But they still expect growth in tourism, and I think that's really silly.
This is a challenge to diversify their inbound tourist customer base. So just a rapid fire question. Out of all the countries in the world today, which destination is the most underrated in your mind?
Qatar.
Why?
Doha is amazing. It is far more... It's everybody who has been for more than 12 hours says the same thing, where it's like, I did not expect this. Like when people go in without expectations, it's very, I mean, first of all, it's super clean, super safe. You don't deal with the same traffic that you would deal with in Dubai, which is like the biggest nightmare. You don't get like some of those like transient type of tourists that Dubai attracts. And the museums there are world class. The food is amazing. The views are spectacular, and it's just like very, very unexpected. Very elegant as well. So I would say Qatar Doha is a top tier must visit.
This is for families or for like a single guy solo trip?
You know what?
For young couples.
I definitely family friendly. I would say definitely couple friendly. It's because like if you like take a stroll along the Cornish or there's like a district called the MENA district. It's very romantic, and the lights and the way that it hits like sunset there is unbelievable. Like it's so beautiful. It really, really something to see. Everybody needs to see it once. The nightlife I haven't experienced there really, so I wouldn't say. I can't comment on that as a single, if you were a single guy.
Yeah. Okay. Note taken. But in the interest of time, we'll leave more like nightlife advice after the recording. But can you talk a little bit more about what you're doing on the filmmaking side?
Sure. So in 2021, I co-founded a film production company with my co-founder Joey Gu, and we specialize in kind of promoting Asian American stories to a global audience. We've produced, I think, 3 shorts, 1 feature. I think we have like 3 features that we're producing now that are in various stages of development, and then a few series as well. But I kind of fell into it, and I really liked it actually. There's a storytelling aspect of it that I'm really drawn to. Obviously, I've been passionate about film my whole life. I just didn't realize it. And the thing that excites me the most is like there's a as a producer, there's a layer of entrepreneurial spirit that you have to have, because when you approach each film, it's almost like literally sometimes it is an individual company. Like they register like LLCs for each individual film, but you are faced with all these different challenges that require multiple skill sets to solve. Whether it's raising financing, or whether it's attracting talent, or negotiating deals. Like it's very complementary to my entrepreneurial journey of running a marketing business. And there is some kind of cool overlap because I meet a lot of like celebrities, athletes, musicians, content creators, influencers in the industry. And then I'm able to kind of combine it with some of the tourism boards or airlines that I'm working with.
Mm.
So there's very nice overlap there too.
The kind of for you, but in my impression, these two are they're not usually run together.
Yeah,
the creative industry and the filmmaking.
And maybe that's an edge that I bring to the table. But I enjoy it. It brings me fulfillment, and I think part of also being an entrepreneur is like, when you run it for so many years, you're always seeking different types of inspiration, right? To stay motivated. That's why people have passion projects. That's why people like pick up like new hobbies. For me, that was filmmaking, and that was being in the industry. Even though the industry right now is really, really difficult to work around, but
so for a young student, fresh grad today, which industry would you say is harder to get a foothold in and make money? Is it the design, creative, or is this the filmmaking? If they have skill sets to enter both.
I would say if you're going into filmmaking and you're expecting to make a lot of money, then you should probably consider other options. But that's not to say it's not possible to make money. I mean, it was a very lucrative industry. It's just going through this change right now. But once it stabilizes, there'll be just different ways that it's lucrative. That's all. Like, people are still making money from it. That's there's no doubt in that. It's just it's been consolidated pretty and condensed pretty heavily.
And is that the change you're referring to in terms of the industry ecosystem, from the production to distribution, the way people consume media?
Yeah, I mean, it started with streaming, and then it started with the next consolidation of all the studios and the major studios. Previously you would have somebody championing a project at a studio, and now it's like these are massive corporations that make these decisions. So it's not always about like the artistic decisions, what's going to generate the most revenue. So there is this, the consolidation. I would say is not great for the industry. And then on the flip side of that is like the onset of AI, Gen AI stuff, which the industry is kind of slow to adopt. But obviously it's happening. And the stuff that's happening behind the scenes is probably even more crazy, where there is going to be, it's inevitable, right? And that's why. It's, if there is a young filmmaker, potential filmmaker listening, then it's probably more important that they hone their AI skills, rather than like their camera skills or their But there's also always that level of like taste that still needs refinement that AI just can't give you overnight, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think film is a great gift to us from our predecessors in the industry. The growth of the film industry in the 1900s, in Hollywood, everywhere else, Hong Kong, India. I think it was kind of a highlight of humanity, if I can put it that way. And if it were to be such a short-lived period, if AI comes and completely transforms it, I think it's quite a tragedy for all of us, for the consumers, for the people in the industry.
I've never really thought of it like
as
that.
a way of storytelling, because I think there's always the entertainment aspect, but also there's the storytelling. If you compare it to books, podcasts, and other forms of media, it would be a big loss for the future generations if we're not able to consume media and get inspired by them in that format. That's my take on this.
Yeah, it's a scary thought because the industry has only been around for so many years. I never really thought of it in that sense. But yeah, you're right. Like in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. It's a blip, right?
Exactly. If you speak about the top films that has ever
It's 100
existed,
years.
and everybody knows. And they're just, you can name all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
The grandmasters in the industry. So
Yeah, it's I think there's always going to be a form of it. It's just the consumption will be a little bit different, and it'll always kind of evolve. But at the core of it, the storytelling, I think, will still be there. The tools will evolve. The platforms will always evolve. But I think as humans, we're built to tell stories, right? And we're also built to preserve stories as well. In what form that takes, that's always going to change, and that's inevitable. But I think that's okay, and that's kind of exciting.
As a parent, do you worry about the impact of social media and short-term videos, and also with AI, on just overall development of younger generations?
Oh yeah,
their attention spans.
Which parent is not?
Self-image.
Which parent is not worried about this? I mean, it's crazy. Like, I'm seeing videos in my feed now where I have to like do a double take. I'm like, is this real or is it AI? And I think, I'm not going to comment too much on it, but like, I think the tech giants have like a fiduciary responsibility to protect the masses. Of course, I mean, it would be great to just have like a label on everything that says this is AI made or this is human made, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's particularly more scary for maybe perhaps the less educated, people on Earth, where they're highly influenced by the things that they see, and there's not necessarily a higher level of critical thinking, and then you can like really do some scary stuff with it.
Yeah. So, I went to do some trekking in Nepal over the holidays, and in the middle of the trip, somewhere at a village that you can only get to after trekking for 5-6 days, there's a family that we met, mom and a young daughter. She doesn't go to school because there's no school nearby, and all she does all day is scrolling TikTok, watching AI-generated animation on her phone. So exactly echoing that is, usually it's the ones who don't have the opportunity to go to school to get trained on critical thinking. The less privileged among us gets the bad side more disproportionately. Yeah, she didn't have a school to go to. All she does that's her education, is social media.
Yeah, well, that's not a good education.
Yeah.
I mean, like, all the tools and resources available to succeed are on social media. Like, you just have to be conscious about what you're consuming. But of course, at that level of poverty or whatever, they're not going to be making those conscious decisions, and that's a real shame. But I think the future is very scary, where if we don't, I mean, I don't think it's going to be controlled. I think it's going to end up controlling. I mean, it already is. There's in areas of conflict around the world, there are videos that are spreading that of incidents that didn't happen. Riots that never happened or happened, but it wasn't at the exact time that it was posted, and the narratives of everything changes, and it's a very, very scary tool. And I don't think anyone's going to stop it. Like, it's just going to get more and more scary, and then it's probably more and more important that parents teach critical thinking, and I have a lot of complaints about how higher education approaches this, right? Like, unless universities really hone, and not universities, but also high schools, really hone down this critical thinking element, people will just fall prey to it and follow, a herd mentality. It's very scary.
In the interest of time, I think we should wrap up. But I don't want to leave on a very pessimistic, depressing tone. So, I mean, in the outline I shared with you, the closing question I'm trying to start with this episode is, could you share the kindest thing someone has done to you? to be fair, I didn't come with the question. I copied it from another podcast I listened to. They ask every guest the same closing question. All right, so it shows you didn't read my outline.
No, I'm sorry. I think I glanced at it. I apologize. I should have come more prepared.
It's fine. So we don't have to.
Let me share what was one of the kindest things that has happened recently, but it's not the kindest ever. But after one of my talks at a travel conference in Singapore, a gentleman by the name of Gary came up to me and said that was the best talk on about mainland China that he's ever heard. And this is a guy that I respect very deeply now because we're friends. And he's an older gentleman, older than me rather. So there's like a level of authenticity and wisdom that comes with that statement that he made, and that gave me a lot of motivation and courage to continue speaking at other events. Because he also didn't comment how nervous I was or anything like that. He just commented on the content and the commentary that I had, and that meant a lot to me. So if you're listening, thank you, Gary.
And don't hold back your compliments. You don't lose anything by giving it for free to others. So, yeah, on that note, thank you, Daniel, for coming on the podcast, and wish you a happy 2026 and early happy Chinese New Year.
Thank you for the opportunity.